Adrenaline, Episode 2, Orion's 11, Part 2. The lower city is a hot mess, its roads painted with blood and who knows what other bodily fluids. Its alleys, home to inmate addicts crashing from their first hit of chronics in years. Worst, the lower banking No. 1 building, target of so many death row offenders, base criminals, and adrenaline players, is about to implode under all the attention. Miles above, proctors watch, sitting in their lavish thrones among their tables of food and drink. Snapping fingers, they demand attention of their servants. Some gathered in halls cheering, as low sits are torn apart by escaped convicts. Others laugh and joke, as if watching a comedy without consequences. Moving as quietly as three idiots an errand can, the four men approach the rear entrance to lower banking No. 1. Waving the Rifle Brothers across the doorway, Aaron hovers over the keypad and enters 4431. The door beeps, he nods, and they all enter. Inside the bank is a mess. It's obvious that they're not the first ones on the scene. Jimmy, the leader of the gang, motions to what looks like an administrative section of the bank, bordered on all sides by filing cabinets. The four men move between the desks, eyeing the nooks and crannies for strangers. "Anything?" Jimmy whispers. About to shake his head, Aaron instead raises an eyebrow as the head of one of the other two vanishes in a cloud of mist. "What the fucking shit?" Jimmy yells as he begins firing at nothing. Aaron and the remaining riflemen duck and dodge, diving behind desks. Aaron manages to crawl into the leg space of his temporary fort just as a whirring sound is heard overhead. Looking out carefully, he sees the culprit, the Deathbringer, the little flying drone. Standing before a urinal, an ex-con wearing a guard hat pisses and whistles a merry tune. The guard himself lays on the floor of a stall, half in, half out of the toilet. He finishes, shakes, sips, and never hears the shadow above him as it lands on his shoulders. Lana wraps her legs around the con's neck, crosses her ankles, and flips backwards. With the thrust, he flies into the air, coming down neck first on the edge of a stall door. As his body lands as limp as the guards, and right beside it, Lana cartwheels onto her hands, brushing them off. Bathroom floor. Gross. Cracking the exit open, she peeks out carefully, managing to find the tip of a rapier in her face. The tip wobbles gently, and she backs away as the man holding it steps into the bathroom. Anduin looks around the scene. "What kind of party are you having in here?" Under her baklava, Lana narrows her eyes and flicks the rapier with a gloved finger. "Look, I already had to kill one guy for making fun of my weapon of choice. Trust me, not a mistake to make if you ask him. Which you can't. Dead." A ruckus outside catches Anduin's attention. Some guys shouting and firing in all directions. He turns back. I'll not ask, but he's alone. "Ready, Mr. Sparrow?" "Yes, I am ready, Sid." The two men, having been watching the bank from afar, approached from the back. Not a few minutes earlier, they had seen a group of men sneak through the door. It seemed as good a way in as any. Sparrow first pulls out a flask and takes a sip. Then he slides it away and pulls out a gadget as they reach the door. Hooking it up to the keypad, it causes a little fizz and a beep, and the door opens. They enter quickly, sneaking to the right and up a flight of stairs. "So are you going to help me make a statement?" Sid says, following Sparrow. "Hostages. We agreed." "Save the hostages," Red replies, reaching a big second floor sign and entering the floor. "You scratch my back," Sid mumbles. The two approach a balcony overlooking the main entrance and teller stands, peeking over its edge. Below, a group of 9 men surround 13 civilians, all hog-tied and pushed into the center of the room. "Okay, so, plan?" Sid says, tightening a red bandana around his forehead and sliding Tizona out of its sheath. I said no touching the bookcase, a voice echoes down the terminal. Just looking, Halcyon says as Eloy approaches. Breathing heavy, the tunnel rat nods a few times. Gotcha, gotcha. Look, but don't touch. Make sense? Hal, rubbing his leg, motions down the tunnel. So, we're all set? Eloy nods some more, and they get to finding their positions among the rubble and dusty piles of trash collected in the terminal. Eloy, crouching in his position, begins telling Hal about an explosion up above on the main street. Something about a bike and a junker playing chicken and the rider coming off worse. Some kind of superhero? Hal asks. Maybe. Don't believe in them, but may. A distance away, a blip of light flashes, then another, and another. Silence befalls the tunnels for a moment. Then what sounds like the cry of an 11-year-old girl echoes towards them. For a moment, Hal is concerned they've blown up some Girl Scout working for her exploration badge. But when a grown man stumbles out, his voice a whine like no other, Hal glances to Eloy. Eloy in return gives him a thumbs up and then presses a button on some wired box he holds. Suddenly, the stranger bursts into flames, sparked from one of the tracks he stands on. As he collapses, Hal sees more men behind him trembling, crying, stumbling and dying. Half their bodies charred, their faces torn off, their limbs hanging like a dog's chew toy. For all the Khans saw, a flash of light blinded them momentarily and threw them into a sense of disorientation. The next they knew, a boot, fist, or tip of a staff was cracking them across the jaw, snapping a leg, or sending them crashing into the stopped junker in the middle of the main street. Taking a moment to compose himself, Red Maru stands atop the junker, his staff in hand. He cracks his neck to relieve some tension, then bounces back into the fray. One by one, the inmates drop, finding themselves somehow zip-tied to a lamppost or digi-mailbox leg. Then the one that managed to throw him off of his bike walks into sight. The man is huge, easily over 7 feet. Hair hangs in his face and into a beard that could be home to wildlife. Heard you like little boys, Maru says, spinning his staff. The bear of a man grunts and begins his charge. He's quicker than Maru expects and deftly sidesteps a few jabs and thrusts. Maru himself ducks a heavy backhanded punch, but isn't so lucky when the man brings a foot into his stomach. He flies backwards, slamming into his half-destroyed bike. Not so chatty now, the man growls. Did you break it? Robbie yelps, banging the control unit of the drone. Unlikely, R0 replies. The pair sit in the surveillance room of the bank, somehow having made their way into the heart of the building. The lights are out in that room. Switch the night vision. Mumbling about something being a genius, Robbie switches the input and the drone's feed blinks into life. Below them, all they seek are desks. Some kind of office area, a boring area, an area with no money. Which way? Robbie asks. North, 200 feet, 90 degrees east. That is the location of the vault according to the blueprints acquired from... Got it, thanks. Robbie sends the drone north. It flitters along for a few feet, then stops, and everything goes black. Did it break? You have already asked that, R0 says. This time, though, you may be correct. The two sneak out of the surveillance room, following in the path of the drone. They make it about 20 feet before a man with a single ESB revolver pops out from behind a corner, putting a hole in Robbie's drone control device. Looking over the two characters before him, Elias rubs the brow of his nose and wonders how he got into this kind of situation. A kid and his robot. What's next? A girl and her kitten? All right, cough up whatever you have. He waves the ESB between them. Credits, gold, chronics, whatever you can buy with or sell. Hand it over. The robot, some kind of Ranger-class retrofit, from what he can tell, is first to speak. We have no currency. We are here to gain currency. This is a robbery. Elias had to concede that made sense. Okay, so you're going to help me gain some currency as well. We all win. Straight-faced, he points them towards the main lobby and the access to the vault. Kicking the drone as it lays on the floor, Jimmy grins at Aaron as he approaches. Got the little shit. Well done, Aaron says, eyeing the 100 or so holes in the walls around them. What a marksman. Waving them on, he leads the 2 remaining members of the mini-gang to the vault. As they approach it, they find it open and mostly ransacked. Something that does not sit well with Aaron and turns his mood sour quickly. What the shit? Jimmy shouts, kicking a few empty drawers around. Might have made it quicker if you hadn't spent an hour redecorating the offices, you fucking moron, Aaron sneers. Immediately, Jimmy swings his pistol at him and pulls the trigger. Aaron, quick to react, blocks the full arc of the man's arm, causing the shot to go astray. They scuffle for a second or two until the third of their party shakes a small bag of credits. Hey, found something. Yes, you have, Anduin says as he enters the vault, his rapiers at the man's neck. Poisoned, by the way. Won't kill until I break the skin. Aaron and Jimmy exchange a glance, then look at the man with the sword. Behind him, a black-clad figure approaches quietly. Looks like we've got you outnumbered 3-2, Jimmy laughs. Aaron, questioning his math, looks behind him for a second, which is all the time Anduin needs to put a shot in Jimmy's shoulder, nudge the third man into the tip of the rapier, grab the bag, and dive out of the vault. In all the commotion, Aaron, Anduin, and the black figure finds themselves outside of the vault, with Jimmy and his pal inside. Pushing the vault door closed, Aaron spins the locking wheel and brushes some dust from his jacket. What a day, eh? He quips, raising his ESB revolver at Anduin. Where's your friend gone? Anduin raises his rapier as well, the 2 of them standing off. Not my friend, and I don't know. Do know they took your loot though. Fuck! Aaron snaps. For the Red Fist! Sid yells, jumping over the balcony. Behind, Sparrow is quick to follow, but not before taking a sip from his flask. The 2 land outside the circle of hostages and start blasting and swinging away with almost pinpoint accuracy. Some of the inmates take shots to the ear instead of the forehead. Others find their arms blown off instead of a hole through their chest. At some point, they manage to whittle down the cons to a third of their force. The rest dead or wounded by Sid's Tizona blade beyond repair. Sid and Sparrow take cover behind a teller window, shuffling the majority of the hostages into an office. We lost 6, Sparrow says, breathing heavily. You probably shot them. I'm a tech, not a soldier. But maybe. About to ask each other what's next, the 2 crane their necks over the teller stand as a voice shouting is heard by the main hall entrance. Sparrow sees 3 men, no, 2 men and a robot, around the corner from the remaining inmates. Just want out, okay? Vault is locked, whole thing is a bust. More than happy to go home, Elias shouts into the lobby of the bank. Robbie and R0 stand to one side, unsure of how to proceed. The inmate says nothing, but instead starts firing in the direction of Elias. Fine! Elias yells back, just plain irritated at this shitty day. He swings out, taking a shot at one of the cons. The man drops, his jaw dismantled from his face by the ESB charge. Seeing this as their chance, Robbie nudges R0 past Elias and to the right, away from the shots. The two stumble across a con by a glass window and push him through, using him as a battering ram. The man is up first, pistol in hand. A scuffle ensues, R0 overpowering the man for a second before the man puts another hole through the droid's other shoulder. In the end, the man escapes, but not before Robbie grabs half his loot. Back inside, Elias manages to down a second and third inmate as he scrambles for the main entrance, taking a shot of his own in the leg. Across the lobby, shots start firing at the cons also, and he uses the distraction as a chance to uppercut a scrawny-looking office worker confused in the fray, putting him down in one hit. Elias grabs a small bag by the man's feet and finally exits onto the main street. After 15 minutes of looting dead bodies, Aaron and Anduin reach the main lobby of lower banking number 1 to find a man putting a red handprint over the LB1 seal above the doorway and feeding hostages out of a side entrance. What's going on here then? Aaron asks. Sid looks back, carefully watching the men. Common decency? Civic duty? One of the two. Maybe both. Anduin notices the blade the man carries and sheaths his rapier, slipping a backpack over his shoulder. This has been something. See you on the leaderboard, boys. With that, he steps out of the catastrophe that is LB1. From a side office, Sparrow appears. Okay, the purge is running. Looks like it'll be wipeout of about 25% of low Sid debt. Sure you'd like more, but... He catches Sid looking at the other man. Problem? Sid echoes the question. Problem? Aaron, tossing a bag up and down in his free hand, shrugs. No problem. Then strides out of the lobby. Stay down! Red Maru yells, wrapping a 7th zip tie around the giant man's wrist, tying him to a road grate. Covered in sweat, he rolls onto his back and takes heavy breaths. The man had almost had him a couple of times, but when the lobby of the bank exploded in gunfire, it caught him off guard and gave Maru the chance to load the bolus cannon on his bike with his staff and fired at the man like a 100-mile-per-hour dart. No doubt it had fractured a few ribs on contact, but Maru didn't care. Winning was winning. Red Maru limps his way to his bike and props it up awkwardly. Climbing atop it, he tries to start it a few times without success. On a patient 5th attempt, however, the engine coughs into life, and he leaves the scene with a little less cool than he'd arrived. Sitting among a pile of loot, Eloy counts out the weapons, gadgets, items of clothing, and other knickknacks they have acquired from their visitors. Pretty good harvest, H. Well, that's good. Makes up for the smell of all this. He scans the horror house around them. Eloy motions to a chimney-looking machine by one of the tunnel walls. It was a furnace, an industrial furnace. Burn them, keeps the rats away, gets rid of the evidence, and most of all, good source of heat. Do we split the loot, or? Halcyon probes gently. Split? No, no. You live here now. You can stay here, H. We're buddies now. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. Halcyon, part comfortable with that arrangement, part feeling like he'd become the new plaything for an underground hermit, nods. Okay. Even the bookcase? No, Eloy said. No, no, no. Also, a couple more things. What now? Hal sighs. Need a latte to celebrate. From up top. Also, maybe a new book. Couple, in fact. Romance. Sell a couple of these ESBs for them. Above the insanity on the rooftops of Main Street, Lana sits, cross-legged. With her baklava off, she counts the goods she had stolen from the man in the bank. 75 glass credits. Not much, but enough for a warm bath and a quiet night. Or a loud one, depending on how she felt. She pockets the credits once more and stands, when something behind suddenly catches her attention. Lana turns around to find a figure approaching. Nice to meet the person behind the mask.